Welcome everyone. It is Arki Hodges here, president of the Black Achievement Fund. And sorry that we are a little late today. We had some technical difficulties with me getting on, but I'm glad that I'm here with you all. Today, we are going to be talking about a big topic, and that is this new white agenda from the far right. And that's what I should have said, the new far right agenda. And it seems that the far right is no longer the far right. The far right has become the center. One of the reasons why the Black Achievement Fund was created, and for those of you who are just tuning in to learn more about the Black Achievement Fund, the Black Achievement Fund is a nonprofit 501c3 nonprofit organization, economic and community development organization, with the mission of financing the grand development of Black America and beyond through a simple system of collective economics. 10 million of us and our allies, plus $9 a month, equals 90 million every single month, and over $1 billion a year to finance our own agenda, a Black agenda. What could we do with $90 million a month? Healthcare. We could build a new hospital every month. And not just build a hospital, own the hospital, own all of the state-of-the-art equipment that goes in the hospital. $90 million a month, we have the money to pay all of the doctors, the nurses, support staff. We have the money to pay their salaries. So when you go into that hospital, we have to charge you for virtually nothing. What could we do with $90 million a month? We could build a new community center every single month, all across the country. If you look at what's happening in Baltimore, the mayor has an impressive anti-poverty program where he started spending money building new community centers, expanding the hours of these centers, giving the kids a place to go other than the streets. And crime has dramatically went down. No matter what it is that we need to do as a people, as a community, you need to have a budget. You can't have a bake sale without a budget. So when it comes time for the Black community to put together initiatives that are going to benefit our community, whether it's a Black hospital or a community center or a cultural center, or supporting a business sector, you have to have a budget. You have to have a budget. And this is where leadership comes into place. We have to have a leadership establishment that has the credibility and the capability of managing our collective wealth in a way in which we all can see the results of. This is what we're trying to do here with the Black Achievement Fund. We're trying to build that leadership establishment, give it a level of credibility by demonstrating the success that we're having through this model. And we're not waiting till we get to 10 million people. We've already accomplished a tremendous amount with a small group of people. And we're continuing that progress right now as we speak by building the first 2 houses in our New Kemet community. But I want to talk more today about what is happening in the United States of America as it pertains to the ability for Black Americans to continue to thrive or go in an upward trajectory here. We can no longer not acknowledge not just the backlash of the Obama presidency, but how much progress the far right have made into making their far right position the now center position within white America. It's no longer far right ideology. That far right ideology is now centered in the White House, centered in the Supreme Court, centered in Congress, centered throughout all of the lower courts. And their goal is to consolidate power. Their goal is to reconstitute America strictly, unapologetically for white people and white people only. And they are having tremendous success. If we don't get our game plan together, we could very much see ourselves losing American citizenship. Who is to say that the people in power can't suspend elections? Who is to say that they have not been working to consolidate their power indefinitely? And what does that mean for Black people? Over 300,000 African American women were let go after Trump announced the end to DEI positions and hiring. 300,000 Black women in 3 months. Now, let's see, how does that look? 300,000. 300,000. This right here, what you see in front of you, this is a football game. 109,000 people. Then imagine this all Black women, a sea of Black women. And in 1 month, they're all gone. Fill it up again. The next month, they're all gone. Fill it up again. The next month, they're all gone. That's how many Black women in 3 months were let go after one person makes the call to end helping Black people. And what did they do? They just capitulated. How much talk do you hear about these 300,000 Black women? What news outlet is going to run their story to try to garner sympathy for them? Who's going to expose this, create a documentary on this and promote this? What is their recourse? How are they going to be reabsorbed back into a new racist workplace that says that their presence alone smells of affirmative action? That there's no way that they can qualify over a white person. There's no way you can qualify over a white person for any of these top positions in these companies. That is the new reality. Pan-Africanists have been screaming from the top of our lungs that you can't rest on laws, that we can't merely seek to become a part of the American body politic. We have to consolidate our power and resources so that we can provide the institutions, so that we can provide a level of capital to influence politics in a more meaningful way on our behalf. But we have to be independent. In action, we have to have our own resources. But more importantly, what we're seeing is this. When you tell a whole race of people to go out and get the best white education they can, so they can go to the best, most elite white university that exists, so that they can then be positioned to go and work for the biggest white corporations in the world. Those were the instructions that my generation was given from a civil rights leadership establishment that wanted to pride itself on fixing the problems that Black people had in America through all of the struggle and sacrifice through the civil rights movement. But Dr. Coretta Scott King said herself, she said, liberation is never really won. You win it in your generation, and you gotta keep fighting in subsequent generations. People don't just stop fighting. Your opposition doesn't just stop fighting. They regroup. For 75 years, we have clung to a civil rights leadership, a civil rights strategy for Black liberation. And we've seen much success. No one can doubt that. But at what cost? What we saw was the dismantling of independent Black communities. What we saw was the disinvestment to Black businesses, and we lost a Black entrepreneurship class. And we convinced those who may have gone into that class that it was much more stable, consistent, and lucrative to just go and work for white people. That's what we fought for. We fought for you to have the same opportunity as a white person does in mainstream America. That's a short-sighted ideology. We're supposed to take those resources that we're getting from employment in these high spaces and use that capital to build our own communities, to build safeguards, so that when we have a hostile a political faction in office who does things like rescind $350 billion in federal dollars that were earmarked for HBCUs, we have a way to resource those institutions ourselves. Right now, they just rescinded that money from HBCUs. And the list goes on and on and on and on. They've successfully redistricted a multitude of areas in Texas. And Brother Lou, I know you know more about that than me. But playing with districting lines to ensure more right-wing representation in Congress for themselves. They've stacked the Supreme Court, defunded Black HBCUs, made corporations end all of your DEI, made universities end affirmative action programs. And it goes on and on and it's not going to stop until they are satisfied that you are no longer in any position to challenge their authority or to benefit from anything they don't want you benefiting from. They're going to close all of those loopholes. The reality is that we are dealing with people who are not just smart, but are also psychopathic. And what I mean about when I say psychopathic, I mean it in the pure clinical sense. That they will rationalize murder, they will rationalize lying, stealing, cheating, anything to achieve their own self-serving ends. This is who you're dealing with. And we expect fair play. I'm a historian. And I can tell you, time and time again throughout history, everybody who has tried to deal with a psychopath and reason and rationalize with a psychopath and think that they've successfully done it, they've been eaten. You can't exist in a level of equality next to people who feel that they should own you still. And this is the reality that we're faced with. We're faced with a large group of people who feel that they still should have the capacity to own you. And that your freedom screwed up the best part of America. How do you negotiate with this type of ideology? Isaiah Montgomery tried to negotiate with it. Those white men in Mississippi never, ever had any intent in seeing any settlement, any black settlement emerge in Mississippi that would be more prosperous than whites, no matter what they said to him. And we witnessed that. Anybody who prospers, subject to a lynching. Anybody that dares to challenge white capitalism, white capitalists, white business, subject to lynching. And that has been their great equalizer. We're willing to kill. How about that? Are you willing to kill? We don't think you're willing to kill. We're willing to kill and murder to solidify our aims. So, how do we resist? Politically. Yes, we still got to continue to vote. Yes, we hope that candidates will emerge who has charisma and the ability to sway some of those people back over to the left. But how much of that is in our hands? How much of that is in our control? How many people do we have to get elected in order to change the tide? It becomes increasingly more and more and more as long as Republicans remain in power. And they've moved to check the power of the Democrats. So of course, the power of black politicians have been reduced. So now, only person I can think of, Gavin Newsom, that's the savior of the black race. The religious leadership in our community. They have tremendous amount of capital. They have a tremendous amount of influence. But do they have the political will to begin the process of building black-owned institutions, of building new black municipalities? Is their leadership that bold? Or is their leadership in line with Democratic leadership? Doesn't seem to be in line with Pan-Africanist leadership. Our nonprofit sector is wholly fed by non-African people. Black people don't give money to nonprofit organizations. They give money to the church, religious organizations. Their universities, and their family. And after that, that's pretty much it. But those of you who are members of the Black Achievement Fund, those of you who've been listening, you all understand that we have another option on the table. And that is for us to collectivize our efforts, pool our resources, consolidate our talent. But we have to work just as hard as the far right has worked to now become the center of American politics. No one talks about that. The very fact that the far right, those crazies that we call, are now the center of white American politics. And they've been that way for going on a decade now. And they've used this time very wisely to put people in key positions that are going to ensure that all of their legislative efforts gets passed. They understand this. White people are no longer the majority in the United States of America. They've witnessed in their lifetime something as unimaginable to them as it was to us, and that was the election of a black president. And as magical as that may have seemed on so many levels, as we can see in hindsight, it was the largest clarion call that we could have created for a resurgence of white supremacy. All of those fears that they never believed that they would have to realize came true in an instant. That these far right people aren't as crazy as we thought after all. We're on the verge of losing this country to black and brown people. And when we no longer have a racist advantage, then we have no advantage because we can't outwork these people. We're not smarter than these people. We're not willing to do all the types of jobs that these people are willing to do. How are we going to compete if we can't cheat? At the end of the day, racism is not just a feel-good ideology. It is about resources. It is about who has the right to control resources, who has the right to rule. Who is to say that a Republican doesn't stand up and says, I think we need to rethink who's a citizen in America. We need to purify our Constitution and go back to the original Constitution that our forefathers created. One in which only white men with a certain amount of land could vote. And white people were the only people that could be citizens. If white people are the only people that can be citizens, they're the only ones that can vote. If they're the only ones that can vote, then that will ensure white power in perpetuity. What's happening now with this anti-immigration policy stance is they're trying to limit the number of non-white people in this country. When you think about voting, how many of us sincerely believe that we can outvote these people over and over again? We need allies. That's the other part of the equation. When I'm watching the resistance movement against these racist far-right policies, I'm seeing far more white people in the streets than I am us. I hear our protests on social media spaces, on Black Twitter and Instagram and those sorts of things. But in terms of a coordinated response, in terms of a coordinated agenda in which we are asserting that we are here to do these 10 things, accomplish these 10 things for our people, we're not moving like a group of people on the verge of being re-enslaved. Of being economically abandoned. They don't have to hire you, is what they're saying now. All of those gains that were made in the past, all of that legislation that was put in place to protect and to ensure that you were in spaces that you previously were not, they're gone. And not only are they gone, they're saying, if they're not gone, we're going to punish you. If they're not gone, we're going to punish you. So now we have this middle class who've been middle class for a few generations now, prided themselves on this status and upper middle class status and all of this. They don't have any businesses. This upper middle and upper middle class Black community that has existed for decades now have established no legacy businesses. that will ensure their financial security in a time of economic reprisals against Black people. And that's what this is right now. They're tired of seeing you riding around in Lexuses and Benzes and Beamers. They're tired of seeing it. They want to see you impoverished. Because they can't believe in their mind that your progress is legitimate. Your progress has to do with unfair practices, unfair legislation. But there's no way you on your own merit deserve to have the level of success that you have in this America. How so? This is deep. This is deep. Moral suasion only work for a small part of the population. We're not going to persuade a group of people who have been fed racism their entire lives and are constantly fed it, that they're wrong, that their way of thinking is wrong. You can't negotiate power with people who don't believe you deserve any. So what do? You put all your eggs in the Democratic Party. You put all your eggs in that fight. Look how much capital we put in the reparations movement. Do you think this administration would entertain reparations at all? Any part of it, a study, anything? We have exhausted too much capital in strategies that cannot bring us toward true liberation. And that is economic independence, the ability for self-governance, the ability to be able to establish our own economy, to employ our own children after they graduate. We have the ability in the United States of America to establish our very own cities, to set new standards. But we have chosen to instead assimilate into an alien culture that never invited you to assimilate with it, and in fact, fought tooth and nail against it. There's nothing wrong with being friendly, but to assimilate or force assimilate, I mean, there's something mentally off here. We believe more in the system and the processes that enslaved us than in our own ability to work cooperatively to do what we've already done before. And this time with more resources. I don't know what it's going to take for us to understand that we need a new leadership strategy, that the old, ancient wisdom of collective economics, our old, ancient spiritual system, it still works. It is still a viable blueprint for Black liberation. But we must have the consciousness to say as a people that that's the direction that we want to go in. And leaders need to emerge to help chart the movement back towards Black economic independence, self-governance, self-reliance. This was an active strategy within the Black leadership establishment in the 70s, early 80s, and there was success there. But we have to continue to build upon the knowledge of those from the past. And this is why our education is so essential. We talked about them stripping funding from HBCUs. They're stripping racism out of history. They're stripping slavery out of American history altogether. So what does that mean for the new generations of Black children who go into school? Because what supplemental education do we offer as a group of people? We send our children to school, and whatever they learn in school is what they learn. We might buy some Black books here and there and put them on the table, but we're not enforcing that they read those books. Many of us in our heads believe that our kid in high school has already read Malcolm X, knows about Marcus Garvey. Well, we got the books all over the house. I talk about them all the time. Do you talk about them with them? Have you read the book with them? What do you think the far right is doing with their children? They're indoctrinating their children into far right ideology. They're preparing their children to carry on the fight. And not just through ideology, through firearm training. Look what we just saw with Charlie Kirk. That boy was 22 years old, and with one shot was able to kill this boy from 200 yards away. That's 2 football fields away. With one shot. If that's not a weapon of mass destruction, I don't know what is. Just knowing that we have guns with that capability, that a teenager can go by and own and possess and legally walk around with in public without any mental health screening or anything. This is a dangerous time. White people are cornered. What they're seeing is that we betrayed the mission of the founding fathers. The mission of the founding fathers was to establish America as a white nation run by white men. This is the Constitution that they're fighting for. They're not fighting for the Constitution with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. They're fighting for a version of the Constitution where you were not a citizen, you had no rights a white man was bound to respect. So if the Constitution used to be oriented that way, why can't it again? Why can't we walk it back to that moment? How are we going to ensure that America remains a white country if we don't do radical things right now while we still have a chance? Because it's eventually going to be white people are 25% of the American population. How are you going to win an election? How are you going to win a national election if you're 20%? And this is what they're facing. They're facing the reality that they've painted themselves into a corner with this numbers game because they thought that they were going to always be able to control who was an American citizen, who had the right to vote. And when they lost that control through systematic opposition over decades that culminated into a civil war, when they lost that control, they saw that they lost their power. They saw that without that control, without that political power, we are relegated to poverty. We can't compete with them. And then there's the irrational fear. You know what you've done to everybody else. So your fear is that when they gain substantial power, they're going to get revenge. When they have the ability to write laws in their favor in the same way that you did, that's what they're going to do. That they're going to write you into enslavement in the same way that you wrote them into enslavement and legitimized it. They look at the United States military. What will happen when Black people and brown people are at the head of the executive branch? They have filled all of the Supreme Court seats with Black and brown people. Congress is majority Black and brown people. How, where will white people have a voice? This is the fear that they're operating from. It is a real fear. It is not a play fear. And we're just sitting here twiddling our thumbs, continuing on business as usual, even as we see all of these warning signs that, hey, this is reaching crisis level for you. We're still operating business as usual. And if we don't change this business as usual attitude, we may very find ourselves re-enslaved in a manner that we didn't think could happen in this generation. But we're already living in a lifetime of unimaginable things. So you need to start thinking that the unimaginable could very much be imaginable in your lifetime in a way that you're not ready for, simply because we didn't resist. We sat back and waited for the larger white Democrat establishment to figure out a leader that is going to save us. Is that going to be our legacy of fight? It can't be. This is why we are here at the Black Achievement Fund, to provide resistance, a viable alternative to supporting exclusively a system created to ensure that we never emerge past a certain bar. If you have not joined the Black Achievement Fund, please join. It's $9 a month. We're a nonprofit organization. All of your contributions are 100% tax deductible. We haven't had our monthly meeting. Next week is my birthday weekend, so I won't be here. So we're going to have to do double up. We'll do 2 months of member meetings for the next time that we do our monthly member meeting. All right. I want to sincerely thank all of you all for your support, for your continued support, and for understanding that this is serious. This is serious, serious business, and that we have a larger part to play than just being members ourselves. We need to be doubling up our membership. Each month, I want you guys out there getting at least one person to join the Black Achievement Fund. But people have to know that there is a viable option. People have to know that there is an organization who are actively working on the things that are going to bring us liberation, and we're not just talking. All right. We are about to close on our second construction loan and start our construction process for our second house. I'm extremely excited about that. We're going to be pouring foundation for house 1 this week. Extremely excited about that. As you know, after the foundation, the framing goes up. So there is a lot of progress that we have there. If you're interested in knowing more about the development progress, there is a New Kemet blog that we've put together on our website. And to find the blog, you simply scroll over New Kemet, go down to blog, and you'll see the blog there. If you have not contributed to our first Pyramid 1 guest house on our land, please do so. We have surpassed the $25,000 mark. We're trying to raise the next $50,000 in the next year. So we're going to be doing a bunch of fundraising for that. If you haven't contributed, please contribute to that. Donorbox.org/pyramid1, or if you're on our website, you can just go to donate and it will take you to that. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign off for today. Once again, thank you all for your support. Please share the video and let's get one member, each person, let's get one new member each month. All right, Black Achievement Fund hug, everybody. And I will see you all soon. Peace.